Hi, I'm Brett Johnson, former United States most wanted cybercriminal, now good guy. Yeah, that's right. I shit thee not, good guy. Or, as the United States Secret Service called me, the original internet godfather. Now, how did I get that title? 39 felonies, a place on the United States most wanted list. I escaped from prison, and I built and ran the first organized cybercrime community. It was called Shadow Crew. It was a precursor of today's dark web and dark web markets. It laid the foundation for the way modern cybercrime channels operate today. Those 39 felonies had to do with refining modern financial cybercrime as we now know it. Credit card theft, account takeovers, tax return identity theft, stimulus fraud, synthetic fraud, phishing schemes, you name it. I was on the ground floor of developing, refining, and implementing it. And let me tell you, yes, that shit does get one sent to prison, deservedly so. Now, look, there's a whole story behind all that we don't have time for today, because today, right now, it's time for the Brett Johnson Show. Today's episode, romance scams, looking for love in all the wrong places, when we come back. All right, so we are back to the Brett Johnson Show. Today's episode, romance scams, looking for love in all the wrong places. You know, it should be the title of a song. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyway, we'll talk about romance scams in just a second. As you know, we always start out by talking about maybe some news stuff, maybe some viewer comments and questions. So let's go ahead and handle that right now. News. What I saw was Ghislaine Maxwell, the buddy of Jeffrey Epstein, decides that they're going to give her 2 dimes. That's right. They gave her 20 years in prison, deservedly so. Meanwhile, the man, the music, the pedophile pisser, R. Kelly, he gets himself 3 dimes, 30 years in prison. Now, my view on that is that neither one of them got enough time behind the fence, but I am not judge, jury, or executioner. The way I figure it is they will both die behind bars, and I am more than happy about that. My only concern is that hopefully the victims are able to keep recovering and able to lead healthy lives. The good thing about both these individuals is that neither one of them will be able to victimize anyone else again. Matter of fact, they may find themselves victimized behind the fence. Not that I support that. I don't. I think that people who harm children should get the worst punishment imaginable. Like I said, I am not executioner, and I think that's up to the government and up to the authorities to enact that punishment. It's not if they're behind the fence, if they're in prison. I don't think that's up to the inmates to enact that punishment, because they're there for breaking the law too. It's not like they are, at their Sunday best. They're behind the fence as well. So, and I'll give you an example what I'm talking about. So I was at Big Spring Federal Prison, and a gentleman comes on the yard. He was a pedophile. He comes on the yard. His name was Wesley. And we were at that point in federal prison. Usually when you came into federal prison, you would travel with your court paperwork. And as soon as you walked in the gate, whatever the head shot caller of your race was, they would simply look at you and say, "Hey, you got your paperwork." And you would hand them the paperwork, and the paperwork would show what you were charged with. It would show if you had cooperated with law enforcement, if you had snitched on anyone. It would show if you were going to be a good inmate or a bad inmate for the general population. And if your ass was in there on some sort of screwed up charge, or you was a snitch or something like that, chances were your time behind bars was not going to be a very pleasant experience. Not that it's pleasant to begin with, but it was going to be even less pleasant than what you might have initially expected. Because of all that shit, federal prisons and the DOJ got to the point where they weren't allowing inmates to travel with their paperwork. So you'd have to go to the counselor and get it, and sometimes the counselor wouldn't give it to you, things like that, because the other inmates, the ones who were running the compound, they wanted to see that paperwork to know who they were dealing with. Well, Wesley gets to the yard. He was a pedophile. He did not want anyone to know that. And as has been pointed out in the comment section on my YouTube channel, I was kind of the liaison between the Aryans and the pedophiles. I was the snitch, but I had knowledge on how to commit online fraud and crime. So I had value. I was not an Aryan by any stretch of the imagination, but they kind of took me in under their wings so that nothing happened to me. And in exchange, I taught them how to do fraud, and I became this liaison for, the area to bridge the Aryans and the pedophiles. So my job was to go to those inmates that looked questionable getting off the bus and have that conversation with them. Hey, I don't know what you're in here for. I don't care what you're in here for. But if you're in here for something that's fucked up, you need to tell me. Nothing's going to happen to you. But if you lie, and you see those guys over there, if you lie and you start associating with those guys, and they find out you're in here for a fucked up charge, those guys are going to kill you. So what do you want to do? And at that point, most of those inmates would say, hey, man, I just want to serve my time. And you would know, okay, more than likely a pedophile. I'd go back and report, hey, this guy's in here for something screwed up. And at that point, they wouldn't allow him in the TV room. He was, alienated, everything else. He might be extorted, but that's the way that prison life is. All right. So Wesley gets there, and I have this talk with him, and he tells me, no, man, I was selling pot on eBay. And I'm like, you're selling pot on eBay? He's like, yeah, man, I was selling pot on eBay. Well, how much time did you get? Oh, man, they gave me 18 years. And I'm sitting there going, they gave you 18 years for selling marijuana on eBay? And he was like, yeah, man. I was like, that's a whole shitload of time, Wesley. And he's like, well, man, that's what they did. That's what they did. So, of course, I'm like, is that in the news anywhere? Oh, I'm sure it's in the news someplace. Look, I got my appeal and everything. It's going to be coming. I'll show you guys when it gets here. So I'm like, okay. So I go back and report, hey, this guy's saying this is what he's charged for. He's saying his paperwork's coming. Be more than happy to show it when it gets here. So they're like, okay. So he starts basically just, bouncing around the compound like he owns the joint, talking to anybody he wants to, befriending all these people. And turns out he's lying the entire time. And it gets to the point where he opens up to me. And what this guy had done, he was in his 40s. I think he was like 46 at that point. He was married, him and his wife. His wife was like a regional manager for Walmart in Nevada. He was one of the store managers. So what had happened is he had, I guess their marriage was falling apart, some shit like that. And Wesley had just harangued and hammered his wife so much about, I want to spice up her marriage. I want to spice up her marriage. I'd like to bring somebody else in. I'd like to bring somebody else in. So he wears his wife down mentally to the point where she's like, okay, go find somebody. Well, Wesley goes and finds a 13-year-old girl. Well, he thought it was a 13-year-old girl. And he got on the chat session. She said, the person on the other end of the line said that it was a she, and she was 13. And Wesley believes it and starts talking to this person, telling him, hey, you can come live with us, and we'll make all these videos, and we'll have just a fine time. So the person that Wesley's talking to says, hey, why don't you send me a write-up of what you want to do to me, and send me the airplane fare, and I'll fly into Las Vegas airport, and you can drive down from Pahrump and come and get me. So Wesley's like, oh, goody. So he sends the money. The day that this girl is supposed to arrive, Wesley drives from Pahrump on down to Las Vegas airport. Wesley's wife is at the house. She takes off that day. Now, Wesley has written a script that they're going to film with this girl. So Wesley shows up at, the Las Vegas airport, and he's promptly arrested because that girl ain't no girl. That girl's the FBI. So Wesley gets popped. Meanwhile, they're like, hey, where the hell do you live? Wesley tells them. They get in the car, drive on down to the house. They find Wesley's wife in the house, camera equipment set up, the script laid on the coffee table. She was ready to go. So they gave Wesley 18. They gave Wesley's wife, I think 12 is what she gave. And Wesley's sharing this with me. And I'm like, dude, they are going to kill you. And he's like, man, you can't tell them, man. You can't tell them. And they're you know, I don't want anything to happen. And I'm like, they're going to kill you when they find out. And so what I did was, because I am not, I do not like pedophiles, but like I said, I am not judge, I am not jury, and I'm not executioner. And even though you're this evil piece of shit, that doesn't entitle someone to beat you or kill you. So what I did was, the Brett Johnson, that was a cyber criminal, and the forger comes out of the woodwork, and I fabricate paperwork for him. I had a job in education in the library. I had access to the copiers and everything like that. So I forged some paperwork for him saying that he was in there on drug charges. No one ever knew I did that. And I talked about it once I got out of prison, but it saved his ass for a little while from getting his ass killed. And what happens is that the paperwork got him by another 4 or 5 months. Then one night he's over in education doing something, because what happens is in federal prison, you have a 4 o'clock stand-up count. And the 4 o'clock count ends, then you go out to chow. And then once chow's over, the yard is open. You can go where you want to. And there's a 10-minute move at the top of every hour. So whatever area of the prison that you're in, you have to stay there until 10 minutes before the hour. And then you're allowed to move within that 10-minute period to wherever else you want to move to. So Wesley was over in education doing something. While he was over there, the Aryans decide they're going to steal the man's locker, break in, and find out why he's actually in prison. So they break into it, and they really find his appeal paperwork, his real appeal paperwork at that point. And it turns out that he was in there for everything I just told everyone that was listening that he was in there for. And his appeal paperwork, part of his sentence was that he was banned from pornography for life. And the only thing that he was appealing was that he wanted to be able to access pornography because he said it was what he did for a living. The Aryans read that and they went ballistic. And fortunately, before he was able to get back to his bunk where they were waiting to get him, someone told him, hey, don't go back to the bunk. And he checked himself in and left the compound. And that's, I served a lot of time with a lot of different pedophiles. None of them that I met were remorseful. None of them had talked about changing their ways, about not doing those types of crimes again. And that's just my experience. That's my experience with just one. I mean, I had experiences with many while I was there. But I throw Maxwell and R. Kelly in the same boat. I don't think that you can fix them at all. I'm glad they're behind bars, and I'm glad they're probably going to die behind bars. Moving right along, since we opened up the show with that happy note, let's move right along. All right, viewer comments. Let's open this up. Yeah. Andy Hayes. I'm not sure how you say that last name, Andy, but he asked me a question. He was like, hey, can you talk about what you would do could you talk about what you would do to try to learn skills in the real world? Like, is Coursera a good option, or should I go to college? Thanks much. What I would say, Andy, is I'm probably the wrong person to talk to. My notoriety meant that I didn't have to have a lot of different certificates to talk cybersecurity, because everyone knew my history. It had been published and talked about enough already, and they understood the skill level that took to achieve that. Now, that being said, if you're not able to, you have to be able to show that you are skilled in order to get a position, or to get a position. That doesn't mean going to college. You don't have to go to college to do that. If you're doing cybersecurity or something like that, you can take the Cisco track, anything else you want to, and achieve those certificates. if you don't have those certificates, how will someone know if you're skilled or not in a specific type of area if you're looking at working for an employer or a company? So I would say figure out what you want to do. I would urge you to do something that you like doing, not find something that makes a lot of money, because even if it makes a shitload of money, if you hate doing it, you probably ain't going to do it for long. And if you do, you're going to be miserable, and everyone around you is going to be miserable. So find something you like doing. See if that's a business that you can start up on your own, or if you're going to have to work for someone or for a company to do that. And then that will tell you, hey, what do I need to do that? Do I need certifications? Is it something that I can do on my own where I don't have to prove my skill set to anyone? That's what I would say. But certainly you can, there's all kinds of free classes, free instruction things online that you can use to learn any number of skills. You just have to be able to show your aptitude in those skills in some way to people that matter. Okay, that's my answer to that. I'm sorry I can't answer anything better than that, but that's my answer. All right, moving right along. I won't answer that one today. Oh, so I had, goes by the screen name of NATO, NATO 134. And he sent me an email. He's like, hello, Brett. Hope you are good. I really wanted to ask you a question about what we can say in today's terms of cybercrime in social applications, open source forums, etc. Just wanted to ask what you think on these things, social media channels, forums, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you agree with me, but when it comes to these sites or applications like Telegram, forums like Dread, etc., people are more like role players, thinking that cybercrime is so easy and can get them thousands of dollars in matters of days without any real work, usually because of attention research. I'm not sure what he meant by that. Some people might also role play in a more credible way to get reputation and then scam people inside of those criminal circles. And he goes on to say, after I answered him to one degree, he goes on to say, what I'm also trying to say here is that people on these forums or Telegram channels or whatever come with a mindset that's actually not criminal at all. Lots of them will fail and then leave these communities because they do not realize the efforts and patience needed in cybercrime to succeed. So I'm going to disagree with the idea of role playing. All right. And I'm also going to disagree with the idea that they don't have, okay, so they may not have a criminal mindset, but they do come to these environments with the intention of breaking the law. Okay, you don't show up on Dread and start researching refunding fraud or credit card theft and asking these questions, or the same thing on Telegram. You reach out to a refunder, hey, what would you charge me to process this refund? Or, hey, where can I get someone's information to file unemployment claims? You don't come and ask this stuff unless you're coming there to break the law, or you're a security person or law enforcement. And so, and most of it is these individuals trying to break the law. So role playing in that, I would disagree. Okay. I would say that what we do see is a good number of these individuals embellish a lot. You know, you've got the expert criminals out there who have no need of embellishing whatsoever. Their skill level, everyone knows it. Everyone knows, hey, he's the guy. The newbies that are out there, I think that you do see a degree of embellishment. How much are you stealing? Oh, man, I'm stealing $30,000 a week, man. I'm stealing $30,000 a week, cash in pocket, boy. I think that we see some embellishment like that. And I think that you're right as well, that you see a lot of people that come in and lie and build up a profile in order to scam the other criminal users that are there. But that is part of this lifestyle, of the criminal lifestyle. I'm very hesitant to say that it is role playing or they don't have the criminal mindset. I think that they're looking for the criminal mindset and they are actively trying to engage in criminal activities. All right. I would also say that you're absolutely right. A lot of the times you see people come into the environment and they think that it's going to be much easier than what it is. And there are some crimes that it's very easy to commit, like, for example, refunding fraud. It's very easy to immediately go into that type of fraud and immediately start to profit. But there are other types of frauds out there that sometimes an aspiring cyber criminal figures he's going to go into, and he finds out, hey, that shit takes skill. And they often tuck tail between their legs at that point, and they either leave or they go over to some other type of crime that is much easier and much more profitable, aka refunding fraud. So that's what I would say on that. I hope that answers your question. All right. The last thing I'm going to talk about before we hit the romance scams. Today on LinkedIn, had a gentleman. He's a student. He's a computer science student. I'm not going to say his last name. His first name is Hussein, but Hussein reached out to me today and he sent me a very nice note. He said, "Hey, Brett, hope you're doing well, man. I just wanted to let you know that your videos have been extremely informative and entertaining. I appreciate you for putting them out because I love hearing you talk about your past because we have some parallels. I love hearing a different but similar perspective of the same issues. Keep doing your thing, man. You're definitely an inspiration. Thank you, Hussein." So I responded. I said, I appreciate that truly. And I do. I mean, it really makes my day when someone says, hey, I appreciate the work that you're doing. So I told him that, and the gentleman went on to say, he was having some troubles. The life at home was not great. And I guess he was, thinking some dark, almost criminal thoughts, and he was using my videos to stay away from that. And I told the guys, like, hey, man, you need to talk to somebody. You just need somebody to listen, give you advice whatsoever. Here's my phone number. All right. I do that. I'm contacted by a lot of people over a lot of things. And somebody like this Hussein guy, if I can help him in any possible way, or if you guys out there, you guys need some help, let me know. A lot of the times I'm contacted by victims of scams and frauds, and they think that because I used to be this cyber criminal and now I'm, a chief criminal officer for one of these security companies, a fast growing security company at that, they think that I'm able to do something about it. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of the time when a victim contacts me, I become the person that has to tell them, hey, I am sorry that you were victimized. I'm sorry it happened to you. And I also have to tell them, hey, you're not going to get your money back. And that becomes a very difficult conversation to have sometimes as you're telling somebody who's lost their life savings that, hey, there's nothing that I can do for you. I'm hoping that one day we get to the point where those conversations don't have to take place, where security's in place and people have the protections needed and people are vigilant enough that these types of things don't happen. But right now, that's what happens. And right now, that's a lot of the conversations I have on a weekly basis when I'm contacted by victims. Sometimes I can help, sometimes I can. But a lot of the times those conversations are me saying, I'm sorry this happened to you. This is how it happened. The criminal, you're not going to find them, and your money is gone. So again, another bright and shiny note to begin our episode today. I got to tell you, it's probably not going to get any better because we're going to talk about romance scams. So I am well versed in romance scams. I have never committed or ran a romance scam. That does not mean I don't know how they operate or understand the intricacies of those types of scams. I've certainly talked to more than enough victims of romance schemes, give you an idea of the different amounts of money that can be stolen and what criminals look for. I talked to one victim. She had sent a romance scammer $1.1 million. She had sent this scammer $1.1 million. She got to the point she didn't have any money left at all, and she borrows $200,000 from her father to send the scammer. So that's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, I talked to the son of a mother. His mother, she got Social Security, and she ends up losing her home because of a romance scam. The only money she got was Social Security. he gets to the point that he gets power of attorney over her. He takes over her finances. Well, she has to have some home repair work done. And she calls him up one day as the work's going on. She calls him up and says, hey, I need to pay $30,000 on the contract to make sure that the work's completed and everything. So the next section's done. And he's like, Mom, I'll send it over to you right now and you can give it to him. So he sends her $30,000 and she promptly gives that to some romance scammer as well. She ends up losing her house because of that. So you've got both ends of those spectrums. You got the low dollar and you got the high dollar. I will tell you that a lot of people think that these scammers are looking for high dollar payouts. If you're in an area like Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, or some area where, you don't make a lot of money, $500-$600 sometimes is a lot of money. And if you're running a few dozen or a couple of hundred of these scams at once, as is usually the case, it becomes a whole lot of money. So romance scams. But in preparation for this, I wanted to see what type of advice was given online about how to avoid romance scams. So I think we're going to open up with that. I pulled up the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission Consumer Advice. What you need to know about romance scams is the name of the article. So again, it does give a nice list of the different types of lies that romance scammers tell. Working on an oil rig. I'm in the military. A doctor with an international organization, I guess Doctors Without Borders, romance, and this gives examples of romance scammers asking their targets for money. Hey, I need to pay for the plane ticket to come and see you, or I got other travel expenses, or my son needs a surgery. Pay customs fees to retrieve whatever. Pay off gambling debts. Pay for a visa so I can come and see you. Scammers always ask people to pay by wiring money or reloading gift cards or anything else like that. And we'll go into some other things that they ask for as well. So the FTC gives this advice on how to avoid losing money to a romance scammer. So the advice given is, number 1, stop communicating with the person immediately. Number 2, talk to someone you trust. And pay attention if your friends or family say they're concerned about your new love interest. Number 3, do a search for the type of job the person has to see if other people have heard of similar stories and have been scammed. Okay. Number 4, do a reverse image search of the person's profile picture to see if it's been associated with another name or scams or what have you. So my thought on all the advice that the FTC gives is most of that advice is about as useful as a screen door on a submarine, with the exception of do a reverse image search. I like that idea. I do because, and I'll get into why here in just a couple minutes and people will understand what I'm talking about. So from the FTC, I was not very impressed with their knowledge base or their advice. So I decided, hey, what do my buddies over at the FBI got to say about it? So I went over and I looked at the FBI's tips for avoiding romance scams. So the FBI's tips, and I'm going to tell you, I like their tips a hell of a lot better. I do. So the FBI tips are: be careful what you post and make public online. Scammers can use details shared on social media and dating sites to better understand and target you. That's true. It's not just true on dating sites. It's true across the board. Be careful about what the hell you talk about and share publicly. I give an example. I'm sorry. I know it's about romance scams, but I gotta segue for just a second. So I'll give you an example. You take Facebook. Everybody shares every friggin' thing on Facebook, it seems like sometimes. Well, Facebook is full of predators as well. It is. I've seen over in the UK, you've got pedophiles over there that will take snapshot of little Billy, your little boy, your little girl that you got in those Facebook pictures, and they'll do some sort of deep fake porno pic with them and use that as currency to get into some of these dark web pedophile channels. So that's just one level. The other level is if you're on Facebook and your wife has bought you some sort, or your company's giving you maybe an anniversary Rolex or some crap like that, and you're bragging about it on Facebook. Well, predators are watching that. Oh, he's got a Rolex. Oh, look here. Oh, look here. The whole family is going out west for a vacation. Oh, they're going when? Oh, they're going next week. Nobody's going to be home, it seems, and I know where a nice new Rolex is. Let me go and pay them a visit. So you have to be careful about what you share, not just in romance scams, but across the board, because there are predators out there. Next piece of advice the FBI gives: research the person's photo and profile using online search engines. That's the reverse image search, all for that. Go slowly and ask lots of questions. I agree. And the reason you go slowly is because it gives you time to not act emotionally, to regain your senses and start acting rationally. Beware if the individual seems too perfect or quickly asks you to leave a dating service or social media to communicate on some other platform. That's one of the common techniques, is you find the target on a social media platform, and then you say, hey, can you get over on WhatsApp or Signal, or can we text, or whatever you want to do. Beware if the individual attempts to isolate you from friends or family or request inappropriate photos or financial information that could later be used to extort you. Another good piece of advice all the way around as well. Beware if the individual promises to meet in person, but then always comes up with an excuse why he or she cannot. And that is always going to happen, because the son of a bitch that's trying to scam you don't look nothing like that son of a bitch in the picture. So, of course, they're not going to meet. There's always going to be some excuse. And then never send money to anyone you have only communicated with online or by phone. FBI, hey, hats off to you guys. Hell of a lot better advice than the dipshit FTC over there. Just thought I'd share that. I'm sure the FTC's like, we're doing our best. Well, you know what? Sometimes your best is shit. Do better. Hey, I'm just saying. I try to end every sentence with just saying. That way I don't end every sentence with dumbass. All right, so moving right along to romance scams. So for those who have watched my show in the past, I have said it before, and I will say it again. Everything kind of works together. Every one of these shows, believe it or not, in some way, every one of these shows kind of builds on each other. It's some sort of weird logic that sometimes even I myself have trouble figuring out. But believe you me, one element does kind of lead and build on another element. The reason I mention that is this concept of trust, which I've talked about before. So you think about it, for a criminal to victimize either you or your company, that criminal has to get you to trust them. If they're going to get you, and what are they looking for? They're looking for information, access, data, or cash. In order for them to get you to give them one of those four things, or a combination of those four things, they've got to get you to trust them. So how does a criminal establish trust with a potential victim? I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. They do it using a combination of technology, tools, and social engineering. Technology, that's your laptops, it's your desktops, it's your cell phones. We inherently trust the technology which is given to us, though sometimes we don't understand it. We trust the news that comes across the line without verifying that news. That's why fake news is such a problem. We trust the phone numbers that show up on our caller ID to be the person or the organization it says it is on the caller ID. What we don't understand is that criminals use a variety of tools to manipulate that technology. They use spoofed phone calls, so that instead of seeing the phone number they're calling from, you see the phone number of the sheriff's office, the IRS, the Social Security Administration, your bank, blah, 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 all the way down. They use SOC 5 proxies, so that while they may be located in Ghana, Nigeria, or Egypt, they can make it appear that they're in your home state or your home country. So they use tools to manipulate the technology. Now, oftentimes, that just lays a base level of trust. It just opens the door. Once that door is opened, then we see how good of a con man, how good of a liar, how good of a social engineer that criminal is in manipulating you into information, access, data, or cash. So that is how trust operates. So how does trust work in a dating scam? Okay. I said technology, tools, social engineering. Technology is more than just the hardware. It's also the website itself. We inherently trust the websites we go to. We go to Amazon and we buy something off Amazon. We trust that Amazon's going to have it delivered to us. We trust if we buy something on eBay that they're not going to ship us some sort of counterfeit good, though sometimes they do. I bought some Creed cologne over there a couple of years ago. Thought I was getting a good deal. I wasn't getting a good deal. I was getting ripped off. So sometimes we do get shit delivered to us that we shouldn't have delivered to us. But we still trust those websites. Dating sites. We trust the dating site to vet the other members that are part of that site, that are using the site to find companionship, friendship, or even romance. All right. We trust those sites. What we don't understand is that criminals use a variety of tools to manipulate that technology. They use stolen identities. So yeah, it's a tool. They use someone's stolen identity. They'll go out and steal some military guy's identity and use that to build a profile on a dating site. And at the same time, they'll use a spoofed phone number or a voice over IP number or maybe a prepaid phone to give them a US-based phone number. And then they'll use a SOC 5 proxy. They may be over in Ghana or in Egypt someplace. That's where the scammer was that hit that woman for $1.1 million. He was over in Egypt. But he had an IP address that was inside of the United States. So they use those tools to gain entry and get the door open on that dating site. Now, once they're in there, once the criminal is in that environment, what happens? Would it work? Remember I said technology and tools, base level of trust gets the door open. Then we come in as a criminal and you see how good of a con man or a liar, social engineer that criminal is in manipulating you. Once the door is open, what happens if a criminal reaches out? If you're on a dating site and all of a sudden you get a message one day, it pops up in your inbox, and the message is like, hey, I saw your profile. Ooh, doggy, you sure looking good. I mean, you are looking so good. I tell you what, I know you want me, I want you, we want each other. Why don't you send me all your money? I'll love you long, long time. Now, if you saw a message like that or somebody said that to you, how would that go? Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there someplace that it might result in something positive, and Lord help that relationship. But for most regular people, you're going to say, oh, hell no, delete, 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 block, block, block. That is not how you run a scam. The scammer is wanting to fit in with all the crowd. The scammer is typically not even going to start searching for people a lot of the time because the algorithm of the dating site will deliver victims unto the scammer. So once those victims are delivered, what do? Well, this is a long-term scam. This is not a short-term scam. What you do is you start out building rapport. Hey, I saw your profile. Just wanted to, hey, I like what I saw. Just thought I'd say hello. Hope you're doing well today. Just wanted to say hi. Leave it at that. And you start building rapport over time because this is the type of scam that tends not to be a 3 or 4 day scam. This tends to take weeks, sometimes months. And that's one of the issues that a lot of people don't understand. They think that these scams should be working quickly. A lot of the time, a scam is a long scam. All right. And in romance, typically, or not typically, but a lot of the times, these scams take time to be effective because the scammer is not looking for one payment. This scammer is looking for every single thing that you've got. He wants all the money he can possibly get from you and more. So you start out by building rapport. Hey, I just wanted to say hello today. Liked your profile. Hope you're doing well. And you start building rapport like that. Maybe every couple of days you come in and say that until you start building a conversation up. Then you start building a friendship. And over time, it gets to the point where maybe the scammer reaches out and he's, hey, I never thought I'd find something like this, especially online. I mean, is this weird or what? That I just feel connected to you. I'm able to, I look forward to talking to you every day. I've not had that in a long time. And I never thought that I would find that on a dating site. I mean, right? Is that weird to you too? So you start opening the door at that point till you start introducing the romantic side of it. Now, at some point, this potential victim is going to want to meet. At that point, what does the scammer do? He has to come up with some sort of reason not to scam. This is one of the guide points that the FBI put out. Do they always have a reason why they cannot meet you? If they did, that's an issue. So you have to come up with some reason. Hey, I definitely want to meet you. I definitely want to meet, but I tell you what, at my, right now, my son, he's got some serious issues. I've got to take care of him. He's got a procedure that I'm saving up for, and I just want to make sure he's taken care of. As soon as he's taken care of, I promise you, I will come and meet you. So in one foul swoop, I've given the excuse for why I cannot meet, and I've introduced a problem into the equation. I am saving up money for my sick son who needs this procedure. Now, here's what I know. I know that human beings typically want to help each other. And I know that you are probably going to offer me some sort of assistance. If nothing else, you're going to say, well, is there anything I can do to help? But I also know this. I also know that many of these potential victims, if I've got a fish on the other end of the line, I know that that fish may think this entire thing's a scam. And now, being on the good guy side of things, I can tell you, I've talked to enough victims that they thought it was a scam before they started to send money over. They start telling themselves, this is probably a scam. He probably just wants money, or she probably just wants money. They're probably just, the only reason they're talking to me is they're going to scam. It's going to, any day now, they're going to ask for money and I'm going to know it's a scam. So they start telling themselves that. Now, I, as the scammer, have introduced the reason why I can't visit, and I've introduced the need for money, knowing that even though you suspect it may be a scam, you're still going to come up, because you're a decent human being, you're going to come up and say something along the lines of, is there anything that I can do to help? What's my response at that point? An experienced scammer, because he also realizes is that victim thinks it may be a scam, an experienced scammer says, we've not even met. I would never ask that of you. I appreciate the offer. I truly appreciate the offer, but I can't take money from you. I'll do this myself. I want to do this myself. Everything's going to be all right. And as soon as this is taken care of, I promise you, I'm dying to meet you. I have to take care of my child first. Now, what does that do? That victim who's thinking it could be a scam, that the only thing that I am wanting is money, I've just told that victim, I don't want your money. I would never ask you for money. I don't want that. So all of a sudden, I have developed established even more trust with that potential victim. That potential victim is now saying, it can't be a scam. They would have taken the money. They told me no, they don't want the money. So it must not be a scam. So they must just be wanting to be with me. Now, here's the issue with that. The issue is that I know you're going to offer me cash again, because I'm going to keep talking about my son. Now that I've introduced that, I'm going to keep talking about that problem. And I know you're going to offer assistance again. So what happens when you offer assistance again? Do I turn it down? Oh, hell no, I don't turn it down. At that second offer, I come in and I'm like, I just don't know how I'll repay you. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I keep trying to get the money up for him, and I've got all these bills to pay, and I've not been able to get my accounts open on this other place, and he needs this, and I don't know how I can repay you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll get every penny back to you. I promise I will. It's just I don't know what else to do right now. So I take the money. I then disappear for a couple of days, come back in, got a big smile on my face. Oh, man, you would not believe it. It was, the doctor said it was a success. It worked the exact way he said it was. Everything's going to be fine. Little Billy only needs 10 more of these things. And I keep milking money out of it. Here's what I also know. I know in society, we've got, I've mentioned this before, we've got 7,500 security companies, we've got the media, we've got family, and all of those things rolled into one tend to blame the victim for the crimes which are perpetrated upon them. What do we say? Why would you click on that link? Why would you send money to someone you don't know? Why would you think that you need to send gift cards? Who do you pay in gift cards? So we tend to blame the victims for those crimes. What that actually does is that isolates the victim from that historical safety net or support group that they've had of friends, family members, and associates. They are scared of being judged, so they shut down completely from that safety net and support group. They don't share any information. So what happens? The way a scam operates, you've got the scammer on one side of the fence, you've got the victim on the other side of the fence, and the idea from the scammer point of view is to get that victim over to his side of the fence. When the family starts doing that, blaming the victim, or the victim is scared the family will blame them, the victim shuts down. They don't have anyone else to communicate with anymore, and that brings them even closer to the scammer, to where sometimes it gets the only person they are talking to is the scammer, this kind of self-contained echo chamber where the scammer is saying everything that victim needs to hear to keep sending money to the scammer. The interesting thing that I've seen over and over again is a lot of the time the victim gets kind of this lost, I forgot what the name of the fallacy is, but it's the same thing that gamblers get. You start sending so much money over and you finally adopt this idea of, I know it's going to work out. I know everything's going to be fine. Just a little bit more. If I just give just a little bit more, I'm sure everything is going to be just fine. So when you keep giving money, even as you think, well, maybe it is a scam, but it's got to work out. So you deny that reason that's trying to come in. Reason's knocking at the door. You got that little door in your head, and reason's like, tip, tip, tip. Hey, you got to listen to me. You got to listen to me. You're giving all your money to this sumbitch, and he's scamming you. And you're thinking it in the back of your head, but at the same time, your emotions are there. You're like, hey, because you don't want to admit you've been scammed, your emotions are like, just a little bit more, it's got to work out. I'm sure it's going to work out. Until finally, you don't have anything, and anything's gone. I mean, everything's gone at that point. So that is a romance scam in a nutshell. And it doesn't always have to be just romance, because not everyone visits a dating site just to hook up with somebody or to fall in love. They visit it for friendship or companionship as well. There's a reason that you're getting all these senior citizens that are scammed on romance, that are losing money to romance scams. And they're not all looking for love in all the wrong places. They're looking for friendship. They're looking for companionship because they don't have anybody anymore. Their kids, if they've got kids, their kids are living away or they don't visit. No one calls them anything else. So they find a dating site. They're looking for companionship, friendship. And then they get some predator that feeds on that. All right. That is the way a romance scam operates. So the question becomes, you've got, I need people to understand the way that trust is developed in those scams. They're using stolen identities, voice over IP numbers, or prepaid cell phones, or using proxy addresses to make it appear that they're stateside or wherever they're trying to say. It may not even be. I've said before that it is never a single attacker which seeks to victimize you. And that's really no different in romance schemes. Many times in romance schemes, you have a set of individuals that are running that scam. You'll have some guy that's the point man that's on the dating site. He's using a stolen identity, maybe of a military guy. So he's the person that's talking to this victim all the time. But then when it comes to a point where, hey, I need you to talk to my lawyer. So he'll have some other guy pretend to be a lawyer, and they may have a few people in this circle. They may have money mules set up as well, so that when you send money, the money mules are going to get the funds, and then everyone gets a cut of those profits. It's rarely ever a single attacker which seeks to victimize you or your company if they're hitting the company. All right. And companies don't get hit with the romance scams. I'm just talking the overall cybercrime world. All right. Blaming the victim's big. It's big. We have to get past that point of blaming the victims of crimes that are perpetrated upon them. The only person responsible for a crime is the criminal. A victim is never responsible for being victimized. It's always the criminal's fault, because it is an active choice on that criminal to commit that crime and victimize an individual every step of the way. I don't care if it's online. I don't care if it's in the real physical world. If you leave your house and you leave your door wide open and you've got no security in place or whatsoever, and you're gone for 6, 8, 10 hours, and you come back and somebody's went in your house and stolen every single thing that you've got, is that your fault? No, it's not. Were you stupid? Maybe, but it's not your fault. You were victimized. The criminal chose to come in your house and chose to steal every single thing you've got. It's the criminal's fault that the crime happened, not yours. Same thing with romance scams. Just because you sign on to a dating site, that does not make it your fault that you were victimized. Just because you believed some son of a bitch when they told you something, that doesn't make it your fault. I need the victims out there to pay attention to that. It is not your fault that you are victimized. I need family members out there to pay attention to that. It's not your mommy, your daddy, your son, or your daughter's fault. Your friends, uncles, aunts, nieces, and nephews, it's not their fault. They were victims of crime. The only person at fault is the criminal. So I need you to think about that before you let some bullshit come out of your mouth of something typically of, why would you click on that link? Why would you believe that? Who would send money to someone they don't know? Before you start saying stuff like that, consider the consequences of those words, because those consequences gets that victim to shut down completely, not share or rely on anybody that they've historically lied on. They don't think they can open up because they're scared of being judged, because you've just indicated that you're going to judge them. So we've got to get past that. We've got to put the blame, the onus of crime where it belongs, on the criminal, only on the criminal. Sorry, I had to get on my soapbox there for a second. Like I said, today is one of these episodes of rainbows and sunshines. Every single thing we're talking about today is just happy, happy, joy, joy. Ha! Maybe not. Maybe not. So, hey, how do you stop romance scams? I like, there are some tools out there. I like that reverse image search. So if you look at it, you can Google this reverse image. There's a few different sites that do that. That will take the JPEG or the picture, and they will feed it through their search engines and see if it's ever popped up on any other site or who it's connected to, and it will give you a history of that specific picture and where it may have been used in the past. So you can start looking at that. I really like a lot of the FBI advice overall, because I think they have a much better understanding, especially than the FTC, bless their hearts. And we'll go over that again. My advice is, I need you to understand that a scam works, these social engineering scams, because this is what it is. A scam works by the scammer getting you to react emotionally. You're scared of loss, you're scared of whatever that is, or you're angry. He's getting you to react emotionally, not logically or rationally. When that happens, and it doesn't matter if it's a romance scam, it doesn't matter if it's a grandchild scam where somebody's calling you and saying your little Billy's in the hospital or arrested or needs money because they're stranded or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's that type of scam or maybe somebody's acting like your financial institution or the Social Security Administration or the sheriff's office or the IRS or what have you. Whatever the scam is, the scammer is trying to get you to react emotionally because he knows if he can get rid of reason, if he can get you to dismiss logic, reason, rationality, that he stands a much better chance of getting you to do what he wants you to do. Give him information, access, data, or cash. And I say him, but it can be a they, it can be a she, it can be a he, it can be any number of things. The scammer. All right. So how do you defeat that? What you need to do is take a breath. And the FBI mentions that. Slow things down. Tell them you'll call them back. Tell them whatever you got to tell them. Hey, I got to get off here. I got to use the restroom. Call me back in 15 minutes. All right. But take a pause and let reason come back into play. It gives you time to think. Slow things down. Gives you time to think. It says find somebody, the FTC said find somebody you trust. Hey, I don't care who the hell it is. Find a friend, find an enemy. Find somebody that you can bounce off what's going on. Hey, Bill, I know we hate each other. I know that we hate each other. You know, I wish you're dead. You wish I'm dead. Hopefully you'll die before I do. But let me ask you this. Does this shit sound right to you? So you can bounce it off of Bill or whoever your mortal enemy is, and they're going to tell you because they have an outside view of it, especially if they think you're getting scammed. They're going to say, man, you a dumbass. Of course that's a scam. So find you a friend, find you an enemy that you can talk to, share that. Say you're old, because we all, when we get older, evidently we don't have friends anymore because they're dying. But if you don't have anybody else, there are places that you can call. For example, AARP has Fraud Watch. You can call them up and say, hey, look, this is what is happening to me right now. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like this is right? And they will tell you, no, that's a scam. You don't need to talk to this person. You certainly don't need to communicate with this person. So find a friend, enemy, or reach out to a third party that can help you regain reason, logic, and control of the situation. FBI says go slowly and ask questions. I agree. Go slowly. It gives you a chance to get yourself, again, beware if individuals seem too perfect. You know, the thing is that I don't think I agree with that, because a lot of the time scammers are getting to the point where they just want to seem real. So they may show some imperfections on purpose to get you to believe that they are that actual individual. So I'm not sure I believe that, but I would say FBI gives this thing, never send money to anyone you've only communicated with online or by phone. Absolutely agree with that. Anyone. You know, your bank calls you and says, hey, we need you to do this. Nope. Don't know who the hell you are. Let me look at the number on the back of my debit card. I'll call you some bitches back. That's how you handle that. Beware if the individual promises to meet in person, but always comes up with an excuse, because they tend to use stolen identities and stolen pictures. They are not wanting to have a Zoom session, though they might with deepfakes these days, but they will certainly never want to meet. There will always be some reason that they cannot meet. Hey, I want to come meet, but I don't have the money for the visa. Why don't you send me the money for the visa and then I can come and meet you? Remember, that's one of the excuses that's given. So they'll always come up with some excuse why they cannot meet you. I don't have the money. I've got to pay this. I'm on some sort of country's bond, or I need a visa, or what have you, or there's a surgery going on, blah, 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 blah. There'll always be some reason. Don't give a shit what the reason is. If they consistently come up with some reason they cannot physically meet you, that is a scam, period. All right? Beware if the individual attempts to isolate you. And this is typical on dating sites or any social media site. They try to get you off the platform itself, because that platform is monitored. You know, if Match.com has an internal communication channel, those messages are monitored by admins and mods. They can see if you're trying to scam someone or threaten someone or trying to engage in human trafficking or a number of things like that, and they'll ban your ass for that. So the scammer tries to get you off site. Hey, do you have WhatsApp? Hey, do you have Signal? Hey, can we just text each other? No, we can't. We can stay right the hell here and talk. So what you got now, friend? So beware of that as well. Beware if the individual attempts to, I already said that. Beware if the individual is too perfect, said that. So those are the difficulty with social engineering, is that you're compromising the human. I'm trying to build trust, not with a machine, not with tools meant to defeat some website security or anything else like that. I'm only trying to defeat you, the person. I know that you're there looking for friendship, love, companionship. So it opens the door for the way I need to attack you to gain trust and then to victimize you from that point. It's not a very difficult thing to do oftentimes. And because of that, the way that you defend yourself tends to be the way that we end our show, talking about staying vigilant, staying safe, staying secure, being aware of your environment, both online and in the physical world. You have to be aware of these things. There are tools you can use, like the reverse engine search. You can look up the phone number sometimes, see if it's a voice over IP number, if the scammer is, or the person is giving you a phone number. Sometimes it won't be a voice over IP number. Sometimes it'll be maybe a prepaid device or something like that. And there's no ways you can do that, but you need to research all this stuff. All this stuff. You need to research the story that's been given to see if it compares to other stories of people who have been scammed, because they're not rewriting the book for every single person that they're scamming. It's very rare that you get a brand new script that's being used. They use the exact same scripts over and over oftentimes because those scripts work. Okay? So it becomes just the idea from an individual's point of view is just securing yourself as a human and being diligent and vigilant enough to research every single thing that they point out at the same time. Okay? Have that friend or that enemy that you can talk to. Reach out, get that, take a pause, try to start reacting logically and reasonably instead of emotionally, because you're scared this person may not talk to you, may lose this person or whatever. So they're giving you some sad story about somebody maybe dying. So I'll bear that in mind at the same time. For companies like the dating sites, I mean, hey guys, you've got tools you can use. We know that bots hit you guys all the friggin' time. There are tools out there that will stop those bots dead in their friggin' tracks. The only thing you got to do is put the budget out to bring those tools in-house. You can do the same image research things too. You can look at IP addresses. You can look at device fingerprints. There are any number of tools that are available to you, the website, that is not available to the consumer or the customer of the website that scammer is trying to victimize. So if you are not putting those tools in place, you are doing your customer a huge disservice. So please, and I need consumers to understand this too, they got the tools to protect you. They do. They just need to put the budget out to do it. They can certainly find synthetic profiles. They can find stolen identities. They can find all this stuff. They can monitor those messages to see if someone's trying to get you off channel to communicate. They can look at all that stuff on this site. The terms of service tends to say that shit too. So if they're not doing that, that website is doing you a huge disservice as well. So that's romance scams. Ain't we having a fun time today? Ain't we? So, hey, what we're going to do, this is today's show. Romance scams, looking for love in all the wrong places. This comes out today, Friday. Next week, the next 2 to 3 episodes, we're over 30 some episodes. I think this is like episode 35. I've done 30 some episodes and I've not given my bio stories. So starting next week for probably 2, maybe 3 episodes, we're going to talk about the Brett Johnson story and share that. I've shared it on Lex Friedman. I've shared it on a couple other channels and platforms and podcasts as well. But it's time to do that with this show. Finally get it out, talk about it, go from there. I am Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. What do we say? We say stay safe, stay secure, stay vigilant. More importantly, this is the Brett Johnson Show. At the end of the day, just do the right damn thing. I'm Brett Johnson. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.